They didn't just build highways through neighborhoods, they erased them. The internet says it's true. Welcome back to The Internet Says It's True, where every week I tell you about something that sounds like I just pulled it out of thin air, but it's really true, and this is part of the WCBE podcast experience. And when I say that, what that means is this podcast is part of the group of podcasts that WCBE, which is a Columbus, Ohio NPR member station, has curated. And so when you go to WCBE or download the WCBE app, you can see all of the podcasts that they have brought together, and I encourage you to check that out. My name is Michael Kent. This is episode 246. Thank you so much for tuning in. Later on in the episode, we'll be joined by comedian Natasha Samreny, so we look forward to that. Here's a review of our show on Apple Podcasts. Such a fun podcast that always teaches me something new about history, easy to listen to while on the go, always something new and entertaining. Thank you so much for that review from E-Lady. Keep those positive reviews and ratings coming in. It's on the Apple Podcasts app, which is the purple icon app, you know. 5-star ratings are huge, but when you leave a few sentences, that makes your rating worth more in the Apple algorithm. It's basically a free way to show your support to this show. But if you want to go above and beyond, hit the Patreon. The link to that is in the show notes. This episode is sort of a downer, but an important story nonetheless. And I want to pose a question. Is this my story to tell? No. What makes me, a white man, qualified to tell a story about the erasure of black communities? I don't know. The filter I use to figure out whether or not a story is right for this show is this. It has to be true, but seem like I made it up. And during Pete Buttigieg's time as transportation secretary, he posed the idea that roads could be racist, and lots of people, mostly those from the other side of the aisle, thought that idea was laughable. But it's not. It just sounds that way until you really dig into it. And this episode, in a way, is all about racist roads. It seems like an important thing for us to talk about, and studying mistakes from the past helps us understand how to move forward. So let's get into it. There's a moment in Pixar's Cars that hits harder than most people expect. Sally, the Porsche, tells Lightning McQueen how her town, Radiator Springs, was bypassed by the interstate. Businesses dried up and people moved away. The town was forgotten. It's framed as a kind of nostalgic tragedy wrapped in a Disney-fied bow. But what happened to Radiator Springs wasn't just make-believe. It happened in hundreds of American cities. Only instead of quirky cartoon towns, the places got erased were vibrant black and immigrant neighborhoods. And instead of a detour, it was a demolition. This is a story about the United States interstate highway system, but not the side we hear about in road trip songs or driver's ed classes. It's about the communities, mostly poor, mostly minority, that were flattened to make way for it. Let's start in St. Paul, Minnesota. In the mid-20th century, the Rondo neighborhood was the heart of the city's black population. Roughly 80% of black residents lived there. It was home to doctors, churches, jazz clubs, barbershops, schools, a place where black families could actually own homes and build generational wealth. The community thrived in spite of redlining and discrimination. Then came I-94. After the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956 was signed by President Eisenhower, planners needed to figure out where to route these new roads. The interstate system would span 41,000 miles and connect every major city. It had to go somewhere. In city after city, the same pattern started emerging. When choosing where to lay down 10 lanes of concrete, they picked the path of what they considered least resistance. That usually meant minority communities that had the fewest resources to fight back. Rondo was gutted. Over 600 black families were displaced. Homes were seized. More than 300 businesses vanished. What had been a thriving cultural center was split in half by a wall of traffic, and residents lost more than their houses. They lost proximity to each other. Walking to church or to school now meant detouring around a 6-lane chasm. The neighborhood fabric, one built over decades, was shredded. Reverend George Davis, a former resident, later said, quote, "It wasn't a road, it was a blade. It cut the heart out of our community." And the same thing happened again and again. In Durham, North Carolina, the Hayti neighborhood had been a self-sufficient post-Civil War black community. At one point, it was home to the largest black-owned insurance company in the country. I-147 wiped out more than 4,000 residents and shattered Haiti's economy. In Miami, Overtown had been known as the Harlem of the South. It was full of theaters, restaurants, hotels, and jazz clubs. Black performers like Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong, Cab Calloway stayed in Overtown because they weren't allowed in the white hotels where they performed. Then I-95 came through. Entire blocks disappeared. More than 10,000 people were forced out. In Los Angeles, Boyle Heights was one of the most ethnically diverse areas in the country. Jewish, Japanese, Mexican, and black families lived there together. It wasn't hit by one freeway, it was carved up by 5. Entire streets are now defined by on-ramps and overpasses. And it wasn't incidental, it was deliberate. The term urban renewal became a euphemism for destruction. Planners used words like blighted or undesirable to justify displacing people who had been historically denied public investment in the first place. James Baldwin put it plainly in a 1963 interview.
A boy last week, who was 16 in San Francisco, told me on television, thank God we got him to talk. Maybe somebody will start to listen. He said, I got no country, I've got no flag. Now he's only 16 years old. And I couldn't say you do. I don't have any evidence to prove that he does. They were tearing down his house because San Francisco is engaging, as most northern cities now are engaged, in something called urban renewal, which means moving the Negroes out. It means Negro removal. That is what it means. And the federal government is an accomplice to this fact.
Baldwin wasn't being hyperbolic. In city after city, freeway construction served as a tool for reshaping who got to live where. It was economic, but yes, it was also racial. One of the most infamous figures in this movement was Robert Moses, the New York City planner who built roads, parks, and bridges that restructured the entire metro area. He refused to build bridges high enough to access Long Island beaches, effectively locking out the poor and non-white populations who relied on public transit. When his expressways plowed through the Bronx, they decimated entire communities. Jane Jacobs, one of his fiercest critics, wrote, "Cities have the capability of providing something for everybody, only because and only when they are created by everybody." But they weren't being created by everybody. They were being destroyed by just a few. When we come back, we'll look at what was lost in neighborhoods like Humboldt Park, St. Malo, and Storyville, and how some cities are finally trying to make things right. If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent. There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsaysitstrue.com/deals for the link.
I'm John DeSando, host of Back Talk. This podcast is an extension of the long-running, award-winning movie review show, It's Movie Time. Back Talk features additional content and banter with guests about new movies. If you want more insight and information about what's playing now in theaters and online, find Back Talk at the WCBE Podcast Experience on WCBE.org. You'll be happy you did.
Hey, I'm Cliff Baumgardner.
And I'm Harrison Stewart.
If you're like us, you probably grew up watching the Discovery Channel classic, Mythbusters. years. From rocket cars to chicken cannons, Mythbusters proved there's no question too big, too small, or too ridiculous to put to the test.
Now we're going back to rewatch the show from episode 1, and we want you to follow along. Join us as we revisit every single myth, moment, experiment, and explosion from throughout the show's legendary 14 seasons. Subscribe now so you don't miss one.
Hey Michael, it's Nikki. I'm the voice you sometimes hear behind your bathroom mirror when you see a funny little red blinking light. I'm also a listener of The Internet Says It's True. It's one of my favorite podcasts. When all my friends and family get tired of listening to me talking about my work as a death doula, because nobody likes to talk about death, I fill in the blanks with all sorts of interesting things I have learned from The Internet Says It's True. Keep up the good work, Michael. Love your show.
After the roads came through, what was left behind wasn't a new future. It was a kind of urban graveyard. The people who stayed behind lived with the sound of traffic, the stench of exhaust, and the slow rot of divestment. Homes near freeways became the cheapest on the market. Rates of asthma, lead poisoning, and heart disease climbed, but property values cratered. The local businesses never came back. One example of this legacy is Humboldt Parkway in Buffalo, New York. Once a beautiful tree-lined boulevard designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, the father of American landscape architecture, Humboldt was meant to connect two city parks with a wide green promenade. It was especially important for working-class black families who had few other public spaces to enjoy. Then came the Kensington Expressway. In the 1960s, the entire parkway was dug up. A trench was blasted through the city, and just like that, the community lost its lungs. But here's where something different is happening. In 2022, Buffalo received federal funding to begin planning for a land bridge to cap part of the highway. The goal is to restore green space, reconnect the neighborhood, and heal the environmental and cultural wound. It won't undo the damage, but it's a step toward recognition and hopefully reconciliation. We can also look back at communities that were lost long before the highway area, like St. Malo, Louisiana. It was a village of Filipino shrimpers and settlers, probably the first permanent Asian American settlement in the continental U.S. They lived in homes on stilts out in the bayous, forming a self-sufficient society that dated all the way back to the 1700s. After a hurricane destroyed the town in 1915, it was never rebuilt. And when Louisiana's infrastructure boom came, St. Malo was already gone, erased without a trace. The highways paved over what little remained. And then there's Storyville, the historic New Orleans red light district. Known for its jazz clubs and colorful history, it was also a working-class black neighborhood filled with local businesses and families. The district was shut down after World War I, but even the remnants were eventually severed when the Claiborne Expressway was built directly over Claiborne Avenue. That avenue had once been the black cultural artery of the city, lined with oak trees and shops, and those trees were chopped down to make way for concrete pillars. The same thing happened to Treme, one of the oldest black neighborhoods in America, just blocks away. Today, murals and performances happen in the shadow of the highway. People still gather beneath it and try to reclaim something of what was taken. And here's the part we don't always talk about. Communities weren't just destroyed, they were gaslit. Residents were told this was progress, that highways would bring economic development and jobs, but the new stores and office parks didn't move in. Those promises never came true. Despite all this, the people who lived there didn't give up. In Rondo, a group of community leaders is fighting to build a land bridge that reconnects two halves of the neighborhood. It would include parks, housings, and memorials. One of those leaders, Marvin Anderson, told the New York Times, "We're not trying to turn back time. We're trying to make it right. We're trying to heal." And that healing is happening slowly. Federal initiatives like reconnecting communities are helping cities remove or cap highways that never should have been built the way they were. Syracuse is dismantling a stretch of I-81. Rochester and Detroit are exploring the same idea. In some places, activists are using art, oral histories, festivals to revive cultural identity. In Buffalo, they're not just restoring green space, they're naming the harm. In New Orleans, people gather under the overpass with brass bands and dancing, reclaiming the echo of what Storyville once was. None of this undoes the pain, but it acknowledges it, and it dares to imagine something better. We can't reverse the past, but we can decide what kind of cities we want to live in next. The highways may have cut through steel and brick, but they didn't destroy the soul of these places. That still survives, and the internet says it's true. It's time for Yap Yap with me and a friend. Today I'm calling Natasha Samreny. Natasha is a third culture comedian who identifies with anyone who treats garlic as a food group. Natasha's performed at the Laugh Factory, Mortified Chicago, and all kinds of festivals. Boston Comedy Arts Festival, Latina Comedy Festival, Detroit Women of Comedy, Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and she also hosts a bilingual Latinx storytelling show with Rhode Island Latino Arts. So good to have you here, Natasha.
So good to be here. Bios are the most fun to read.
Aren't they? Well, they're even more fun to listen to.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Listening to your own bio is just kind of like, okay, yep, that's correct.
Yeah, you're like
that's
editing
correct.
in your head, like, why did I? Does it even matter? Yeah.
I have a stage intro that I use. It's completely different than my bio. And every time I hand it to someone, they're like, oh, I want to make sure I get this right. And I'm like, none of it matters. You can make it up. And I don't know why I say that, because it does matter. But at the same time, I think I say that because I'm embarrassed to have someone read my credits.
Yeah, you just hope that they would be on a website somewhere and whoever wants to read them can. But
that's
yeah,
fine. Yeah,
That's
exactly. They're not going to care. It's not like someone's going to be
doesn't
like,
matter.
oh, I don't like the Latino Arts Festival. I'm going to not listen to this comedian. So we just did a show together. We were on the FAFO Fest in Chicago, which was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
You did a spoken word piece that was incredible. And we have a mutual friend who's also a friend of the show, Joe Janes, who is a frequent guest. Now, was Joe your teacher?
Yeah, was he your teacher?
He was at the Second City Training Center.
Yeah, he was my writing teacher. I guess years ago, and I just felt honored to be back. Whenever I get to work on anything with Joe, it feels so cool. And for some reason, I feel super young again. And I'm like, just tell me what to do. And he's like, you know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, he's the best. He's the best. Now, there's a part of your bio that I had a question about. I have to admit, I'm embarrassed to admit that I had to Google it. Tell us what third culture is.
Well, first of all, I put that in there so people would ask if they didn't know. So please don't be embarrassed at all. But third culture kid generally means like someone who grew up or lived a good part of their life outside of the native cultures of one or both of their parents. So, for example, my parents were both military, and my mom is originally from Ecuador, and my dad is American, but Lebanese Italian. And so we moved around a lot, and just, I think for some kids, like a lot of my friends or, adults now, there's a sense of like home and groundedness based on the location where you even grew up in your childhood. But for my sisters and me and others, like you sort of find that basis outside of location. So it's a different dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting to learn about. I hadn't considered that. Being, white and white, long enough that it goes back to like literally when the first white people came here, the first Europeans, like that was us. That was, so it's interesting to learn about, I hadn't thought about the idea that like if your parents are two different cultures, you don't specifically identify with one or the other, like what that means and what that's
and
like.
I guess that's something like, at least for me, everyone's experience is going to be different. But like growing up as a kid on military bases, it really wasn't until high school where I started questioning it, because in my experience, like everyone was mixed some way or another, and so that was the norm.
And military bases, having spent a lot of time on them,
right.
They're their own culture. I mean, it is really not the real culture of the world, nor is it the culture of the country that it's in. It's sort of it's a bubble. So
it's its own thing. That's a perfect way to describe it. One thing that sticks out from living on military bases was just, I don't know if they do this anymore, but it was so normal at the time, but so weird looking back. I remember like I used to play softball when I was a kid, and every day I think it was like around sunset or around 6:00 when everyone else was out of work, and they were like, there was always an adjusting of the American flag. There was a big one on base or one in every, and there would be, everyone would stop. Cars would stop in the middle of the road, games would stop, and the anthem would play. and it's just like soldiers would get out of their cars and kids would come up and like you put your hand on your heart. It was like a thing that happened and you didn't even think twice. It was like very Truman Show-esque. And then everyone, once it was done, you just got back to what you were doing.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, they do that.
Okay.
And I always feel guilty because I'm not part of that. Like I'm a visitor on the base. And so
you're like, what do I do?
I'm usually like in a car or something, like where someone's driving me from place to place, and I'm seeing people just stop, and I'm like, oh, I guess that's not for me.
Is the car broken? What do I do?
Yeah.
Can I bring?
If you go and see a movie in a movie theater on a base, they play the national anthem before the movie. People stand. It's different. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out, make a note of this to look for it. There is a great clip of Robin Williams at some forward base performing for the troops, and the retreat of the colors plays during his performance. So while he's doing comedy on stage, the entire audience stands up and turns away from him because the flag is behind them. And his reaction to it is perfect. Whether or not he knew it was going to happen, he let on like he did not know. And when they described it to him as retreat, he had lots of things to say about that as well. You can imagine. It's a great clip if you can find it. I always think about that when I perform on bases. But
thank you for sharing that. I'm going to look that up because I feel like he would have been the perfect comedian to respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Before we get into my part of the show, do you have like a fact or a factoid or something that you think maybe I haven't heard about? And I'll use the honor system to tell you whether or not I've actually heard of it.
Absolutely.
Well, we've already got one. The third culture thing counts.
Okay, yeah, you're not going to give me a pass, man. I feel like you might know this, but it's one of my favorite. So did you know that, do you know which country has the highest biodiversity per square kilometer in the US? Or in the world, sorry, in the world.
I would guess it would be biodiversity. I would get,
There's some good ones out there.
I think about like Madagascar, and I think about like, what is it out there to the west of South Africa? The Galapagos. Mm-hmm. That's what I think of when I think of biodiversity. But what is it?
Very close, very close. So it's my mom's country of Ecuador.
Ecuador, really?
Yeah.
Well, so I didn't know that, so that's a winner.
In like the top, like so Costa Rica, Brazil. I think the rankings change every now and then, but I think Brazil was one of the top ones. But yeah, this is I guess per square kilometer, and the Galapagos is right off the border of that, which is one of the places that Darwin was a fan of when he studied his finches.
Is the Galapagos part of Ecuador, or is that part of Peru?
Do you know what? I should know this politically.
I don't know.
I think they're part of Ecuador, but I think now I feel dumb. I don't know. I think they're their own, but they're more part of Ecuador because you have to go through there to get there.
Interesting. Well, that's definitely
look up.
You know what's crazy, Natasha? I have been asking this question of my guests for hundreds of episodes. I don't think that I have heard one that I've known yet, which is sort of the impetus for this show, was that like there's so many cool facts that I'm 46 years old and I'm still learning them. Like that's amazing to me that we can still hear stuff that we've never heard before. So
I feel like it's so human, like so storytelling and everything. Like if one day you know everything, like what's the point?
That's true. And not only to know the things, but to make other people feel less than by telling them about them. And pretend that you're super smart. That's what this podcast really is for, is giving people things that they can become. Do you remember the show Cheers? There was a character, Cliff Clavin, which was, what's the guy's name? John Ratzenberger, or John Ratzenberger? I don't know his name. That was his character, and he always like had facts. So it's a little known fact that blah, 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 blah. That's what this show is to make people think that you're brilliant, even though you just have factoids. So.
Is that one of your entryways when you go to parties and talk to people? You don't strike me as someone that would like do that on purpose, but that seems like a fun one. Did you know?
First of all, I don't go to parties and talk to people.
Okay. Or if you are, you're probably performing on stage. That's my path.
Yeah, I don't.
I go perform and then I go hide in the corner.
Yeah, I try to avoid engaging in social situations. Yes. But yes, the answer is yes. I am insufferable with this stuff. And I don't bring it up, but I can't help but talk about it when someone says, "Oh, I'm from Ecuador." And then I could be like, "Oh, did you know that, Galapagos Islands are the most biodiverse place in the world?" Like I these facts are in my head, and when I hear someone bring up something about one of these things, and I sincerely hope that listeners of this podcast are the same way, that they're like, "Oh, I heard this story about blah blah blah." And I always have dumb facts. I've done 246 of these episodes, so I have lots of dumb facts. Okay, let's move to the topic of the podcast. For question 1, Natasha, we're going to play for a joke. So if you get it wrong, you've got to tell us a joke. If you get it right, I will tell you one. And I didn't prepare a joke, so we're going to pull from the Milton Berle joke file, which means we might have to go through a few pages before we find one that's not problematic. What was one of the major consequences of the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956? Okay, so this was when they instituted all the highways in 1956. And one of these things was the major problem. Not problem, but the major consequence. A, the first U.S. toll roads. B, destruction of minority neighborhoods. Or C, segregation was banned.
Oh, B.
Yeah, and that is the correct answer. When I said not a problem, it is a problem. I just didn't want to give away the answer because the other two weren't problems. They were good things. But yes, the destruction of minority neighborhoods, it caused a massive displacement of poor and minority communities and cities across America. It seems like every week I hear about another one of these cities or communities that's inside a major city that's just lost to history. I have had Humboldt Park in Buffalo on my list of topics for a really long time, so we finally got to talk about it in this episode. You got it right. I owe you a joke. Tell me a number between 1 and 600.
Oh boy, 432.
Okay, 432.
Also, I can't wait to hear this episode. Now I'm intrigued. This is how you get your guests to lose focus and get it wrong, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the topic is neighbors in the Milton Berle joke file.
Wow.
And this is kind of apropos to the topic. Here's the joke. I'm not sure if I get it. Let's listen. The developer who put up the houses in our neighborhood was a genius. He bulldozed all the trees, then named the streets after them. See, that's just sad. It's not really a joke.
No.
Not a joke. My life was perfect until a new neighbor with a green thumb moved in. That's like such a suburban joke. Like, I get that joke because I lived that life. You know,
That's like an All in the Family joke or something.
It is. My neighbor mows his lawn and then I have to mow mine. That's kind of my life.
Is that a real thing? Like a subconscious competition? You peeking over your hedges?
It really is. It really is. Yeah, my mother-in-law lives with us, and the other day I was like, the grass is getting a little dry because it's been so hot. I got to turn my sprinklers on. And she was like, oh, we never used to turn our sprinklers on. You'd be amazed at how quickly the grass grows back. I'm like, it's not about that. It's about those days until it does. That I'm the one house on the street that looks like, I don't know. It's horrible. It's stupid. Grass is the dumbest thing. Okay.
It's so dumb.
Yeah. And one day I'll do an episode about how stupid grass is, but we'll get into that later. Question 2. For question 2, we're going to play for doing the dishes. So if you get it right, I've immediately, when we're done, got to go upstairs and do the dishes. If you get it wrong, you've got to do your dishes immediately when we're done.
How do I know this is actually going to happen if I get it right? Is your wife going to send like evidence?
It's the honor system.
Okay, got it.
It's the honor system.
Neighbor trust.
Which 20th century Supreme Court case upheld the constitutionality of racial zoning laws before being later overturned? Was it A, Plessy v. Ferguson, B, Brown v. Board of Education, or C, Shelley v. Kramer? So this is racial zoning laws.
I feel like I'm going to get this wrong, but for some reason I feel like it's A.
It is A, Plessy v. Ferguson.
Yeah.
This was 1896, which surprised me. I did not realize it was that long ago. That's where we get this separate but equal phrase that occasionally a president will accidentally use, not knowing where it came from. This was the segregation laws that influenced zoning laws. Now, Brown overturned it decades later. But yep, Plessy v. Ferguson was basically created redlining and racial zoning. Let's see here. Question 3. We always play for question 3. We always play for a show sticker.
Amazing.
Yeah. So even though I
have to do the
dishes,
influencer thing, you have to put it in front of your hand, Michael.
Oh gosh. Why do they do that? I've been seeing this everywhere.
I think your camera doesn't have to worry about it. That has to do with like the autofocus on some of the cameras, and they can't. Yeah. So you really don't.
Crazy.
I just wanted to see if you.
It's a crazy behavior because of horrible technology. So yeah. They do that. I've been noticing it. And, or the other one that really bothers me is when people do the ASMR with the things they're holding up to the camera. So they like tap their nails. ASMR.
You know, maybe you'd see an uptick in your audience members if you did that more. You should be tapping your mic, tapping your hat.
Well, let's talk about it.
He's going to slowly peel the sticker.
Yeah, I cannot deal with ASMR. It works on me. like in a negative way. So it definitely affects me, and it sends the creepy crawlies up the back of my neck.
Yeah.
And I can't handle it.
Oh my gosh.
but
We
they
have to
always-
change the subject then. It scratches your brain in the wrong way.
It does.
Yeah, dramatic.
There we go. Okay, done. We're going to play for a sticker. The only other way you can get these stickers is if you join the Patreon at patreon.com/Michael Kent, or if you peel them off the light poles. I've been sticking them on all over the country. Which U.S. government program in the 1930s created residential maps that labeled minority neighborhoods as, quote, hazardous? Was it A, the FHA Home Protection Plan, B, the Homeowners Loan Corporation, or C, the Bureau of Housing and Communities? This is a hard one.
That is a hard one because I feel like there's good intersections of like things that sort of did happen, and I don't know if the names are right. I don't know. I feel like it's B or C. I guess let's do C.
The answer was B. You were so close. You were so close. It's the Homeowners Loan Corporation, which created redlining maps that labeled Black and immigrant neighborhoods as risky, quote unquote risky, limiting investment and mortgages.
Yep.
So, yeah, I had never heard of the Homeowners Loan Corporation. Never had heard of it. These are things that they don't teach you in school. Obviously.
No, they don't like to.
No. So you do not get a sticker.
Can you at least tell me where the highest like frequency of them are so I can go pull one off a pole, Michael?
Yeah, it would probably be Columbus, Ohio.
I was about to say, is it in Ohio? Because I know you have a high thread of Ohio in your show.
Yeah, no, it'd probably be Ohio.
Right.
Also, bathrooms is a good place where I stick them occasionally, so that's a good one. I always keep some in my wallet. I mean, to the people from these establishments listening, it's listeners to the show that put them there. I don't put them there myself.
I'm covering holes. You're patching ugly pieces. You're doing a favor.
I'm putting them over bad stickers. I'm putting them over Proud Boy stickers. So, question
now
4.
It says Proud Boy in your podcast.
Shit. Okay.
Okay, moving on.
I did not. Do you have any podcasts? Do you do a podcast?
No, I did a little one for a while, but no, not currently.
Okay.
No.
So instead of in the podcast, since you don't have one, the next set that you do on stage, you've got to work the phrase "the internet says it's true" into your set. If you get this one wrong,
100%.
Which seems like an easy thing to work in.
I'm going to get this wrong just to do that.
Okay, perfect. What government-backed mortgage policy from the 1930s systematically excluded minority buyers from home loans? Was it A, redlining, B, urban renewal, or C, eminent domain?
Yeah, you're right. Things get harder. I don't know if you said that, but that's what it feels like. What was A?
A was redlining. It's either redlining, urban renewal, or eminent domain. This was a mortgage policy from the 1930s.
Can you give me any other tips? I feel like A had more to do with politics. Maybe I'm reading that wrong.
Well, it's specifically about homes because we're talking about home loans that are given to minority buyers, or not given to minority buyers, I should say.
And what were B and C again?
Urban renewal and eminent domain. So redlining, urban renewal, eminent domain.
I'm just going to guess B for the rest of the questions.
The answer was redlining. We've mentioned redlining a couple times so far in these other questions, but redlining was the government-backed mortgage policy officially, which basically said, minorities can't buy these home loans. They denied mortgages to people, which, of course, as we know now, deepened wealth gaps. Those wealth gaps still exist today. It's probably the main reason that those wealth gaps exist, I would assume.
Yeah.
Probably larger than any of the other systematic factors.
And at the time, I imagine, well, I don't know, you have to tell me those loan applicants were male or mostly male to begin with.
Yeah, they were probably
women had
all
to be
male.
married.
Yeah, we're talking about 1930s. So women.
Yeah, very small pocket.
Yeah.
Women didn't exist. There were no women in the country.
No such thing as women at that point. They were property at that point.
Wow.
Yeah. Not until they gained their personhood later on. But
we're still working on it.
Redlining. And if you haven't put it together, this episode is about those erased communities and basically how we've got a highway. We're going to decide where to put it. Let's put it through this community rather than this community.
Yeah.
And we still this still exists. This is still a thing.
Oh yeah. 100%.
So, well, you've done very well. You're 2 for 4 And question 5 is for all the marbles. So if you get this last question right, it's like you got them all right. You're welcome back on the show anytime.
Amazing.
But if you get it wrong, I will defriend you from Facebook. I will ban you for life from the podcast. And that's pretty much...
You're going to delete the episode and make like it never happened.
No, I'll re-record it with a different guest.
Are you going to put an emoji over my face and turn me into a white man guest?
That's what I'll do. I'm going to use AI to turn Natasha into a man.
We're going to turn the episode into what we learned on the first part of the episode.
Yes. Yeah, there
cool,
won't
cool.
be,
I'm excited.
It will not be a third culture guest. It'll be a first culture guest.
I'm so excited to be part of history today.
Here's your question. And this one is not multiple choice. What's a time that you yourself saw something in your community change, whether physically or culturally, and it left a lasting impression on you?
Oh, this can be good or bad?
Yeah, anything. Just a change in general. And it could be a cultural change or like, buildings going up or buildings coming down or streets moving.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know that community for you, like you've lived everywhere, so you can choose any of these communities.
Oh,
or you can choose a virtual community, one that doesn't, not like a city. Totally up to you.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so this one may be a little sad. Is that not allowed?
That's okay. No.
Okay.
Totally okay. It's a sad episode.
So there was, when we were living in Panama, my family, we as kids, we were friends with, just whoever was there, whoever was working there, whoever was living there. And there, I was super young, so I don't remember his name, but two of the kids that we were friends with happened to be the kids of the gentleman that did the landscaping on our lawn. And we used to have this big mango tree in the back. Like mangos, or as Americans say, mangoes, are native to like that equatorial area, so Panama. And so we'd play manhunt at night and hide and seek. We'd hide in the tree, and we'd come down and we'd pick mangoes off the tree. And it was just one of those places you could go and hang out and read as a kid. So it had a lot of good memories. But the weather in Panama is very much like monsoons. Like half the year it's raining, sort of like in Florida, and the other half is just hot. And there was one storm that really hit us pretty hard, and it flooded a lot of the neighborhood. And the son of the landscaper who worked with us at the time I think he was up in the tree doing something, and he got hit by the storm. He got hit by lightning. He was a young boy, and it was really tough. And I remember, what I do remember at the time is, his family actually dealt with obviously a very big loss, but sort of how something like that, I think you're not always taught as a young person that grief is a real thing, and that sometimes it doesn't go away. You manage it every day. But what I do remember is the community coming together the best that they could, and like trying to just circle around that family and be there with them through that. And every time we saw that mango tree, I mean, you may have had good memories still, but you had sad ones too, thinking about him.
How old were you at this point?
I was probably like 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's really formative.
Really formative.
I feel like if you were 4, you probably would have, that you wouldn't have really realized what was going on. But 6 is old enough to really remember that. And
but you have kids, right?
I don't.
Oh,
no.
I thought you had kids. Okay. I'm always fascinated. My sisters have kids. Yeah, like about just like you learn about how your brain works as you grow up, but then there's always like you sort of learn about it again as you watch kids or other people's kids grow up. It's fascinating.
It is. And I have nieces and nephews, and they're all like really intelligent kids. Or they're just, I don't remember being that smart as a kid. I look at them and I'm like, how are they this smart at this age? They pick up so quick on everything. And I'm like, I always wonder, are they going to remember me doing magic tricks for them when they were 5, and
do they enjoy it? Are they wide-eyed?
Oh, they love it. And they just keep asking for more and more and more. And which I don't mind, other than there's only so much I can do. And it's usually like, I'm enjoying a day off being with family. I don't want to work.
That's what's really growing your career, isn't it? It's the kids being like, do more, teach us something new.
Yeah. Because I haven't really performed for exclusive kids in a while. And I'm not the best at it. So I don't really know, like, I don't know
Yeah.
I'm not as good of a kids as an entertainer as people who do that for a living, but like it's different for family because, I always have something. And my dad always reminds me when we're going to go somewhere, he's like, hey, bring some magic for the kids. And I'm like, I always have something,
Oh, you don't mind that? Like your parents or for your family is just like, he does magic. You let him do the thing.
I don't mind it. I pretend like I mind it, but
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, like if I'm being truly honest, that's sort of why I got into it in the first place, was for the attention. And it's the same way I feel about doing cruise ships. I always say, like, if I perform early in the week, then I can't have a single meal without someone coming up and talking to me. And I act like that bothers me. But the truth is, like, the opposite is worse, of like, if I'm at the end of the week and I'm lonely and no one's talking to me because I don't know anyone. Like, we all got into entertainment for attention. Like, we felt like we had
100%.
something to share and we want people to hear us share it. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Now, speaking of comedy, going back to this question, first of all, that was a right answer. As sad as it is, I appreciate the answer.
Yeah.
Have you seen the comedy community change culturally since the time that you've been involved?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I started like 11 or 12 years ago. I really got into it maybe in the last 8 years. I started in Chicago, and especially as like a younger woman at the time, younger brown woman, a younger queer brown woman, starting out, it felt like at the time in like the early aughts, that it was still, very much a boys club, which isn't a bad thing. But if you're not in that club, it can feel very like you have to hit all these things and like you have to do things the right way. And luckily, happily, and excitingly, I've seen just the style of comedy that's acceptable in clubs, on TV, and just the outlets, and the opportunity to network and commune has expanded in like through the LGBTQ community and through different cultural styles. I'm a big fan of that. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I've seen that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I
What are
have
your
too.
thoughts?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen it as well. I've seen. It seems to me, and I could be completely wrong about this, because I am sort of, a lot of times I feel like an outside observer of the comedy community in Columbus, being, comedy magician. I know all like a lot of the comedians, but I don't go to hang out at the mics, and I don't go to, I'm not really in that world.
Yeah.
I just sort of see it whenever I do like a festival or something. And I have seen like the cattiness that happens between comedians decrease. It seems less.
That's good.
Like, because I can remember times when there would be week-long tirades on Facebook groups about so-and-so's behavior or so-and-so. And I see that less now, and a lot more community and a lot more people working together. And I do agree, like, you're going to see less of the misogynistic comedy thrive. It still happens, especially like on a mass scale, when you're talking about like, television comedians and arena comedians. Like, you still see that because sadly a lot of our population still wants that. But like true, Chicago comedy is a little different than the rest of the world. Chicago comedy is savvy enough that a comedian that thrives in a smaller market might not thrive in Chicago. And so I can see that that sort of change would happen there before it would in Columbus, Ohio. But again, I'm saying that from an outside perspective. I recognize that I'm not really a part of that community as much as I am just sort of a hanger on. So
no, but it's so helpful. Like, you're still an observer of like the culture and like the audience culture and what the world is seeing. And I didn't even think of that. Like, I should have thought of that. Like, as a comedian musician, it's like you sort of are like fringing on your own thing. It's interesting too. Like, there's always like weird subcultures. Like, comedians get super cliquey and it can feel super high school. And you're just like, you guys chill. Like, there's enough for everyone. And they feel that way about like magicians sometimes. Or
and
about
even that I feel like has changed. Like, I feel like that used to be more so that you were really shunned if you used props or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like comedy in general is a little bit more open-minded than it was about art and different types of art form that belong on that stage. That said, I know if I'm a stand-up, I still don't want to follow a magician. If I'm on a show and I'm a stand-up, it's a hard thing to do. And
no, the audience, like, I feel like the audience is often about good magicians the way they are about musicians. There's some way that like what you do, not to like you work hard and there's very specific things you can do that we can't. But like the way that you can pull in an audience and like the wonder and the entertainment is not something that comedians can do in the same way. And it's something that musicians can do too. It's like a different level of like language and energy, and it's super cool to watch.
Yeah.
I don't want to follow magicians either.
I wouldn't want to. And part of it, I think, is that you can be sort of a lazy observer of a magician. And you can't be a lazy observer of a comedian. Most comedians, because of the visual aspect of magic, you can sit back and kind of half watch and get it. Comedy, you can't half watch; you have to be listening. And
that's true.
I think there's a sort of a it's like visual stimulation sometimes where that, and honestly, it's why when I set my stage, I like to have some props out when people filter in and sit in their seats, so that they're like wondering what's he going to do with this, because there's a visual aspect to it and some suspense to it, and that doesn't exist in a lot of other art forms.
That's so smart.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's the way I think about it. So,
do you have like a thing that you always wear, or like a thing that you bring with you?
I don't. You mean like superstitious wise, or
or tradition wise?
Branding wise, I try to. I wear a lot of olive green, and I've just kind of always have, like, I wear a lot of that, but not really. Like I need a pocket, because at one point in my act, I pull a banana out of my pocket, and it has to be like a coat pocket, because you can't.
This is like the best response to that ever. I need a pocket because I need a pocket for a
banana, and I've said this on stage before, like, if it's really hot, I'll take the coat off after that trick, and that trick is like 10 minutes into the show, and I'm like, you guys, I just had to wear that coat for the banana, because otherwise I got a banana in my pants pocket, and it's
what is this
awkward.
Jacket made of, Michael? Is it a linen jacket?
It could be anything. It's like an inner, it doesn't matter what I'm wearing, like I'm always sweating, but
we're gonna get you a banana harness.
The funny thing is, so I went into like a clothier to have this coat custom made for last year's college tour, and I was talking about the banana. I was like, I need a pocket on the inside of this for a banana, and she said to me, okay, how big does that need to be? And I said, banana size. So me and a stylist and a clothier are sitting at a table Googling average banana size.
Oh my God.
And
didn't you have like a brand like Dole or something that you always go with?
No, because, and here's a little bit of inside baseball. The banana that I use is a fake banana.
You couldn't bring it with you?
I could have, I guess. I didn't think to.
They're Googling average banana size in the world, and you're like, I could go to my car, but
I could get you the banana. No, it probably wasn't with me, but yeah. So I have a banana pocket in my coat, is the point, which I'm very proud of. And is
it banana shaped or just
no,
like?
It's rectangle. It's sort of a long, skinny rectangle, but it fits the banana.
This sounds more complicated than it needed to be, but you sound like you obviously know what you're doing.
These are the kind of questions. In fact, I just bought a suit, and there's a pocket that I need something else for, which I can't really get into, but like my left pocket has to fit something else, and the pockets were way too shallow. And I didn't realize this until after I got the suit home, and I was like, oh, this doesn't fit. So,
but then you also have to space them out according to how balanced you feel on stage, and then how you're doing them in the trick, right? Or
not
can they just
really.
be in any
I
pocket?
don't really care about that. The biggest thing is like, A, does it look good? B, does it facilitate the trick? And that's generally the priority that I assign to it. Is that
fascinating?
And it's harder. Like the older I get, it's harder to figure out what I can wear. Like what I look right wearing without looking like I'm trying. There's a comedy thing. I don't know if our audience is enjoying this, but I am.
I am. I love where performance intersects with fashion. So tell me.
Yeah. There is a stand-up comedy thing where it seems like you can't dress too nice.
Yeah.
And 100%. I don't know why that started. It's like I'm too cool to care that much to wear like something nicer. In the 80s, like everyone wore suits on stage. Mm-hmm. And then at some point, there was this deconstruction that happened where unless you're going on like a late night talk show, like it's kind of like, I just rolled out of bed and walked on stage, and I'm not putting that down. I just think it's interesting. I think it's interesting, like and I really don't know why it works. If it has a purpose, I know that in street performing, like busking, it does have a purpose. because no one is going to tip someone who looks like they don't need the money. So in street performing, it's a real thing that you have to kind of fit the part of, especially in America when people don't know what busking is and they assume that buskers are like, unhoused people that are just needing money. So I don't know. I'm curious in comedy if that's a thing.
Yeah. I always thought, like, especially after the 90s and stuff, that it was much more of like a relatability thing, like an instant relatability on stage.
Sure.
Because before, I felt like comedy, once it like left, some version of it out of vaudeville and then it became televised on TV, like it was very performative for the audience too, right? Like you dress up, there's dinner, like only certain people can come in the audience and everyone wore suits and it was a very set like type of performance. And then after that, I wonder if like, when there were more and more comedians becoming like characters in their own shows and they have to be like the relatable American dude. I wonder if that transferred back to like the small stages. I have no idea, but I'm curious now too. But the stand-up comedians love it. Dudes love I dressed up a little bit, but I still have my cool sneakers. Sneakers and
Exactly.
hoodie, but it's the same one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we need to wrap this up. Where can people learn about Natasha Samreny?
I'm probably most active on Instagram. Just my name, Natasha Samreny. I have a website and I'm always posting dumb stuff on there or like show stuff. So come out and hang. Yeah.
No, you just said Samreny.
Samreny. Did I say Samreny? Samreny. I think
Samreny. I'm sorry. Samreny.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you should have told me I've been pronouncing your name.
Do you know it's Lebanese? So it was originally Samrani. So we're both pronouncing it right, but American.
Okay. Sounds great. Check out Natasha, correct last name pronunciation, on Instagram. Find out where she is performing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you for having me. It's so much fun. I can't wait to hear the episode.
That's all for this week. Thank you so much to Natasha Samreny for being my guest, and thanks to you for listening. Here's the voice of a city planner.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it. See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True!
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make this show possible. Sean Brown, Joshua Endress, Dallas Ray, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Mitch and Andrew Joseph Kemplin, and the show's official emperor, Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge, and all audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/Michael Kent.